So this video is going to be a little different just because I'm going to be explaining my disease and how I was diagnosed, when I was diagnosed, and kind of the timeline of my disease and what happened as I got older and how it changed. But I will be talking about my pregnancy, just not the whole video is not about it, but I will explain why I'm a high-risk pregnancy. So my disease is called TRAPS, TRAPS. It's abbreviation for tumor necrosis factor receptor associated periodic syndrome. It's an autoimmune disease, and what it kind of does, I don't even know exactly what it does, but what it affects is the receptor in my body. So when people usually get sick, then I don't know, their body automatically knows, but for me, my receptor's kind of messed up and it's not like everyone else's. And when I have physical or emotional trauma, my receptor goes, oh, she's sick. Or even when I get stressed, then my receptor sends out signals and it makes me sick, and I'll get fevers, and they can go up to 106. I've had that happen before. And then I get really bad headaches. I get joint pains everywhere throughout my whole body, and it makes it hard for me to walk. I'm not stiff, it's just my body hurts so much that I don't want to move. Really bad headaches, like I said. Really bad chills. My stomach ache will start hurting. I won't eat at all. It kind of really sucks. I do get really sick, but I'm fortunate enough to not have it as bad as other kids have it. Most kids have it way worse than me. So I was diagnosed when I was 4. I had symptoms when I was a baby, but I couldn't tell them what was wrong, so they didn't really know. I was just always super sick and always had fevers, and it was kind of the normal for me, so my parents didn't know what else to do. I was always going to doctor's appointments, but they couldn't figure it out. But like I said, when I was 4, I went to Seattle Children's, and a doctor decided to do genetic testing on me, and they found out that I did have TRAPS. And then from that point forward, they put me on daily medication that I took, which is called colchicine. And after that, I wasn't sick every day, but I would get what they call episodes, and they would just flare up. And like I said, I would get those symptoms again. Really bad headaches, really bad chills, joint pain, stomach aches, not eating. I don't remember how often I had those when I was younger. I'm guessing a couple times a year, but I would take a different medication when I got those within a 24-hour period of the beginning of my symptoms, and then it would leave. But if I wouldn't take it within a 24-hour period of my symptoms, then I would have my episode for 7 to 14 days. But if I did take it in a 24-hour period, it would leave completely, so I would be fine. When I was in middle school, so I was about 12 or 13, I believe, I was off of colchicine. I wasn't taking it anymore because I was doing perfectly fine, so they didn't see a reason for me to be taking the medication. But my episodes started changing, why my body was changing, and I no longer got fevers, so we couldn't tell when I was having an episode, because the only way we could tell that I was having an episode was when I had a fever, and my mom would be like, oh yeah, that's an episode, but we wouldn't be able to tell anymore. I started getting daily headaches. We didn't really know what was going on. We went to a ton of doctor's appointments, back and forth from Seattle all the time. Finally, we didn't know exactly what was wrong, but we were just like, okay, it's the disease. And for the daily headaches, my whole life I've had borderline high blood pressure, but it was high up there, but it wasn't enough to put me on medication. But finally they said put her on medication, so they did, and that actually stopped my daily headaches. I would still get headaches, but they weren't daily anymore, so I figured that was the problem, was the high blood pressure. We don't know, to this day, we don't know if the high blood pressure is caused because of the disease, but we're just guessing it is because we don't know anything else. It's hard to really tell which things that happen to me are the disease and which things that happen to me are not the disease, because there's just so much unknown about the disease, and there's no knowledge or anything. The disease is so rare, and nothing really makes sense to me about it, so I never really know. If something happens, I'm like, oh, it's just a disease, because there's no other explanation for some of the things that happen to me. So at the beginning, I've been seeing a high-risk doctor for all of my checkups because I'm a high-risk pregnancy, because of my age and because of my disease, because of the high blood pressure. They took me off my high blood pressure medication because it does affect the baby. So they didn't know how my body would react or if my blood pressure would go down. But it is known during pregnancy, high blood pressure goes down, it drops. So my blood pressure did drop at the beginning, but I'm entering my 3rd trimester next week, and in your 3rd trimester, your blood pressure is known to go back up. So we'll see if it goes back up. If it does, it's not really good. I don't know what's going to happen. They'll probably put me back on my medication. That's kind of why the disease puts me at high risk, because they just don't know how. What I have is an autoimmune disease, and most pregnant women, if they have an autoimmune disease, or autoimmune disease tends to not flare up as much during pregnancy. They don't know why, but that's known. So I haven't had an episode at all during this whole pregnancy, which is good because I haven't had to take any medication besides my prenatals, which is really good. I've been grateful for that and grateful for a healthy pregnancy. But we'll see what happens in the 3rd trimester. But so that's why I was a high-risk pregnancy, just because they didn't know if I was going to get a bunch of flare-ups, or if I was going to get really sick, or if my high blood pressure would stay and I would have to go on medication. So that's kind of the end of this video, just explaining high risk and my disease.